But the heater is also right in there. So, and it kicked on. I was hot trying to get dressed. And see, that's the thing too. See, I always in a race when I'm trying to get, when I do a baptism, especially with a woman, because I've got to beat them out of there because, you know, women are so slow at getting ready. Oh, nothing. I thought that was funny. I know my wife said, "Oh, I'm faster than you." Yeah. Do what?
I wish your wife was here.
No, I mean, I'd argue with her on it. Because she always trying to tell me out. She's like, "Oh, I'm faster than you to get dressed and this and that." Well, the time she does, we're headed out the door. And then it's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I forgot my phone." We'll be halfway to Chillicothe. We got to turn and drive back and get her phone because she done forgot about it. But, now, we're still in 2 Samuel. Getting closer to the end, though. In 2 Samuel chapter 20. And, now, give you a recap. This is where King David had just killed his son 2 chapters, or his son had been killed 2 chapters ago after rising up against him. His general Joab, which was his nephew, been his general the entire time of his ruling. And Joab is going to be talked about quite a bit in this right here. And this is where it just typical person that I want to talk about how he honors his position more than he honors God. And the thing about I don't understand about Joab is he knows that David is referred to as a man of God's own heart. And yet he questions what David does, makes decisions about what goes against what David says and everything else. And this will be well said over in this right here. In 20 verse 1, it says, let me back up one second. Now this is where David is still trying to get all because like I say, Absalom's been killed, his generals and everything. There's still groups of people that are scattered that haven't came back to David. They're still bickering over it, still want somebody else to rule over them other than David. Because sometimes you get so invested in a person that when that person walks away from you, that you still want to follow them. Even though they don't have nothing to do with you, still see people in relationships like this, like, why don't you just leave that person alone, But yet they keep following them and won't leave them alone. And that's what some of these people are doing. Absalom's dead, they have nobody to follow, so now they're trying to find somebody to follow, and they only have their little generals left. Now that's where it starts off with. So now troublemaker named Sheba, son of Bechri, a Benjamite, happened to be there. He sounded the trumpet and shouted, "We have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent, O Israel." Now Jesse is, of course, David's dad. That's the reason he says Jesse's son. So all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, son of Bechri. But the men of Judah stayed their king all the way from Jordan to Jerusalem. When David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines that he had left to take care of the palace and put them in the house under guard. He provided for them, but did not lie with them. They were kept in confidence till the day of their deaths, living as widows. Now what happened here is David, when Absalom was trying to take him over, David was trying to buy time so he didn't want to fight his son, because he knew how it was going to turn out. The kid was hard-headed, so he gave him more opportunity. But David left the palace, and he left 10 concubines, which in concubines is mistresses in this time. And but they just called them concubine and give them a name, you know, title that made them sound more important. But anyway, now, when he left them there to take care of the palace, well, in Absalom and his advice, they were told to take and build a bed up on top of the roof, and then to have to lay with these women to show David his dominancy over him. It's like, okay, I'm taking what's yours and I'm making it mine. And David comes back, and these concubines, he knows what happened to them. Well, he's not going to punish them, but he puts them in isolation away from everybody and takes care of them until the day of the death. But he doesn't lie with them because he don't. That's you know what some people call in that time tainted. Now, then the king said to Amesh, "Summon the men of Judah to come to me 3 days and be here yourself." But then Amesh went to summon Judah. He took longer the time that the king had set for him. David said to Ashbish, "Now Sheba, son of Bechri, will do us more harm than Absalom did. Take your master's men and pursue him, or will find fortified cities and from escape." So Joab, men and Kerethites and the Pelethites, and they all, with their mighty warriors, went out under the command of Abishai. They marched out to Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, son of Bechri. While they were at the great rock of Gibeon, Amesh came to meet them. Joab was wearing his military tunic. Okay, now what sounds weird right here? It says that they were under the lead of Abishai. Now, Abishai is not David's general. Joab has been his general this entire time. Well, what happened is David demoted Joab, not only for killing his son and not listening to him, but talking trash to him a couple of chapters ago. If you haven't read 2 Samuel, you need to really read that. But I can't elaborate too much on it. But Abishai is now, it says he's in command of this group. Why is he in command of this group? Because Joab, like I say, demoted him. Isn't that what happens when you go to work and you talk trash to people and stuff like that? You think you're going to get promoted? No, unless you're the owner. But you have how many people own businesses that can talk trash to people? Very few, because most people, if they own a business, they worked hard, especially at their public skills and having a relationship with everybody around them. Now, Joab has been a murderer this entire time. And now he is talking to Amesh. And it says that he came to him with a belt with a dagger in his sheath. As he stepped forward, he dropped out of the sheath. Joab said to Amesh, "How are you, my brother?" And Joab took Amesh by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. Now, keep in mind now, this is back in this time where, and it's still a custom to kiss men. Men kiss, but they kiss on the cheeks. There's none of this, what you see on TV nowadays, that they have elaborated on so much, But anyway, I'm not going to go here or there. But we watch TV and we know what we see, okay? And anyway, so like I say, to kiss him. Well, Amesh was not on his guard against the dagger in Joab's hand, and Joab plunged it into his belly, and its intestines spilled out on the ground without being stabbed again. Amesh died. Then Joab and his brother Abishai preceded Sheba, son of Bechri. Now it says, one of Job's men stood aside to Amesh and said, "Whoever's favored Joab and whoever for is David, let him follow Joab." Amesh lay wallowing in his blood in the middle of the road, and the men saw that all the troops came to a halt. When he realized that everyone who had came upon Amesh stopped, he dragged him from the road into the field and threw his garment over him. Then Amesh had been removed from the road. All the men of Joab pursued him. Okay. Now, this is going to get pretty interesting here. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I guess it's pretty close to reading the entire thing. It's not a very long read. But now, Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel to Abel Beth Machah, and through the entry region of Beretz, who gathered together and followed him. All the troops of Joab came and besieged Sheba and Abel Beth Makkah. They built a siege ramp up to the city and stood against the outer fortifications, while all the battering to the wall, bringing it down. A wise woman called from the city, "Listen, listen, tell Joab to come here and speak to me." Or speak to him, I'm sorry. He went towards her and asked her, "Are you Joab?" "I am." She said, "Listen to what your servant has to say." He said, I'm listening. She continued, "Long ago they used to say, 'Get your answer at Abel, and that be settled.' We are peaceful and faithful to Israel, and you're trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance?" "Far be it from me," Joab replied. "Far be it from me to swallow up and destroy it. That is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Becher, from the Hale country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this man, and he will withdraw from the city." The woman said to Joab, "His head will be thrown to you from the wall." Sound like this woman ain't playing. She ain't talking about we're going to open the gate and shove him out. She said we're going to toss his head over the wall. That's pretty gory right there. Now, I always wondered, anybody has ever played baseball or worked around construction or anything like that? What happens when you're up high and you drop a tool? What do you yell? "4." 4. I said golf.
That's what I do whenever a wrist falls. 4.
No.
Look out.
You say heads up. Right? I wonder if this is where it came from. We're going to throw his head over the wall and we're going to say heads up. So here it comes. Nothing? No? Come on now. I thought that was funny.
That was a good one.
Yeah. 4. Yeah, but it's heads up. And see, I never understood that because usually heads up, you're supposed to duck and kind of move out of the way. Yeah, but most people in baseball, you look up to see where the ball's at. Okay, now getting back to, this is going to finish real quick. I'm going to start my message. Then the woman went to all the people with her wise advice, and they cut off the head of Sheba, son of Becher, and threw it to Joab. Heads up. So the sound of trumpet and his men dispensed from the city. Each returned to their home, and Joab went back to the king in Jerusalem. Okay, now starting my message. Thing about this is Joab, like I say, he goes to Amesh, and Amesh is he's ruling over him, and yet he tells him, he don't even try to talk to the guy, he just kills him. And this guy is loyal to David, David's loyal to him. And the thing about this is, to me, this message, what it's talking about is our loyalty. What kind of loyalty do we have? Because Joab seems loyal to who? Joab. Don't we know a lot of people that they're loyal to themselves, what they say, what they tell you things that they can benefit them. And it's so easy because people will whisper in your ear and they'll tell you, "Hey man, you ought to owe me $20. But they don't ever tell you that. What they try to do, some people, they're smart, they try to butter you up, say, "You're a really nice guy. You're a really nice guy. I like you. You're friendly to everybody, and you can never tell nobody no." You're like, "Yeah, man, that's me." And they're like, "Can you spot me 50? "Nope." You're like, "Well, I am a good guy. So, okay, I'll loan you $50. And if you're like me, you'll call it $50 or $20 friends. You loan them $20, you never see them again. You see them in the store, they're like, oh. And honestly, I like having $20 friends because then I ain't got to worry about them borrowing money off of me again. They come back, "Hey, no, you never paid me back the other 20. Oh, I was meaning to, man, but you sure I didn't pay you?" "Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I remember you giving me $20 back." But anyway, this is what David is doing is David and Joab, not David ain't have any part in the story. And it's sad too because we're coming to the death of David, the end of David's life. But this is people under him that's fighting for crumbs. And it's like me, I've never had a problem with authority. I've worked in a lot of places. I respect my bosses. I respect those who've got titles over me. You know, when they tell me to do something, I don't question. Okay, if it's fine, you know. I mean, if I'm not violating safety things, yeah, we'll do this, you know. And because that's what they are. They're my boss. And that's what David has told Joab, but told Amish. But Joab now is deciding that he wants to be the boss. And isn't it nice for people that want to be the boss all the time? Just even though, have you ever worked with these people that have no authority over you, and yet they try to tell you stuff to do at work? Yeah, I used to have a guy. I used to volunteer to go 4 hours early into work, and I'd go in this one department. I'd be over there doing what the foreman told me to do, and this guy, like I say, same position as me, no authority, nothing. He walked over there and he said, "Hey, I think you need to clean that area up right over there." I ain't what the boss told me to do, but you know, I'm like, no. You know, I'd say, "Oh, I'll try to get to it. I'll be nice. I'll try to get to it." You know, then after about the third or fourth time, I'm like, "Dude, you're not my boss, man. Quit trying to act like it, you know. If I want a boss, I'll go home and let my wife boss me around." But no, the thing about right here, what we're trying to learn from these people, and like I say, they're under David, and they're fighting for control. Now Joab has been promoted over, and now he kills the guy because it's like, I need that position. That's my position. And who are you to take my position? And then he does what David tells him to do. He goes and he pursues Sheba and finds him. And starts besieging the city. And when he's sieging the city, if y'all know what sieging is, this is where they used to go to a place where it has a big wall around it, and they would lock the doors down. They would let nobody in or nobody out. And generally this would take 3 to 4, 5, 6 months because they would starve the people out inside until they just came out, "Hey, dude, I give up." And if anybody's familiar with Desert Storm, that's what happened in Desert Storm. They bombed them for 21 days, and the people that were fighting, they come up to them, but they was throwing their guns up in the air. "Hey, I give up. Just give me a Big Mac." You know, they didn't want to fight because they were so hungry. And this woman here, and the thing about, I like it right here, is it talks about a woman. Because in this biblical time, women it's not today, okay? It's not today. Don't look down at the Bible. But the men in this time treated women badly. Women could not testify in court. Women could not, their words were not honored. But the fact the Bible says that this woman, a wise woman at that, said, "Hey, don't kill us, and we'll get this one guy. We're not going to let one guy to kill everybody." Because that's what they were going to do. They were going to destroy the city. And they got rid of this one guy. And the thing about David, when he's putting these guys in patrol like this, you know, it reminds me of something that it's this story I heard. It happened. It's one of those that I had really go in and Google and find. I was trying to print it out, but I couldn't. I was having a problem with the printer. But anyway, Mount Vernon, Texas. Not Vernon, Texas. It's Mount Vernon. Google it when you get home. Anyway, there was a church there, and right beside or attached to, I couldn't get the true details to it, but there was a bar right beside this church. And this bar decided they were going to renovate and make it bigger and better. Well, the church, while this bar was down and fixing it was in a couple of weeks from the grand opening, the church started praying to God, "Please, God, help us out. Let's do something about this bar. Do something." That night, the bar was struck with lightning, caught on fire, and burned to the ground. Yeah, well, hold on. Now, the owner sued the church for praying to have this thing burned down. Okay. The judge that was looking over the case, he said, "You know, I don't understand this." He said, "This is the weirdest case I've ever ruled over." And like, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, okay, let's see here. You have a guy that don't believe in God, that has this bar that's suing the church because he's blaming who? God for your prayers for burning this church down." And you have the church people that saying, we didn't do that. We didn't, and so they're denying that God, so that way that it looks like they're going to win the case because they're saying, we didn't do that. No, instead of having the pride saying, we prayed for God to burn that thing down, and he did. Because you can't hold God accountable. I mean, you can't. You can try to. You ain't going to convict him in court, I can tell you that. Because what are you going to do to get him down here? But anyway, the church was denying the fact that their prayers were the ones that, and I thought, man, that's so shameful, you know? And it's kind of like right here, what Joab is doing is Joab was with God at one point in time. He was with God at one time. And then all of a sudden, things start happening in his life, and it's not his cup of tea. It's not God. He thinks God's punishing him. So he gets further and further away from God by doing everything that his heart desires. And if we know what the flesh and the heart is evil. We have an evil heart inside of us. We have corruption inside of us. And that's what Joab did. He had a corrupt heart. He wasn't looking at what was good for God. And that's what a lot of us need to do, is we need to look at what the best thing for God is in our lives. Is the best thing for God in our life is sitting home right now waiting for whoever's fixing to play at 12 o'clock. Because I guarantee that's where a lot of people are at right now. You know? And that's a sad thing, too, when you see these football games, especially right now with this time of year in these stadiums that's all up north. You'll see people out there in snow, in the stands around them, getting snowed on, sitting there freezing to death, after paying $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 for a ticket to watch these cats play. They're sitting there freezing watching this, and yet they can have a nice warm place like this to come to worship God, the true God that matters. Because that's where God says, never put a God in front of me. And that's what a lot of people realize is what they're doing. And that's what I'm saying. I'm getting to this because that's what Joab did. Joab made himself a God. And sometimes we can make ourselves a God. We can do what's most important to us. And somebody said they wish my wife was here earlier when I was talking. Because the thing about my wife is I love about her is when we were struggling, I was out on back surgery. She was going to medical school, and we were hurting. We couldn't get food stamps. We didn't have nothing, and we just had a little bit of money coming in what I was getting from Aflac. And anyway, in the house payment, car payment, all this stuff, and we were struggling buying food. And you take poor kids that love to eat. And she would sit there and she would prepare the food, and she wouldn't eat. She'd wait till the kids finished eating before she got any food. You know? And that always chokes me up because that's somebody that you call selfless. Not selfish, but selfless. She thinks more about others than she does herself. And that's the thing. I mean, and she has... She probably ain't gonna watch this anyway. You bragging about me? She has lupus, you know, and she's had lupus for 10 years. And most people, you know, it wears them down. They're tired. They don't want to work. And a lot of people don't work with this condition, but she does. And in fact, at her work, she has more days that she didn't call in than the most people that don't have lupus. She's always there, no matter how tired she is. She gets up, and that's what I look to her for sometimes in strength, because you know she faces this and yet she still goes through it because she's selfless. And sometimes I realize I'm selfish, and at times we can realize we are selfish people because we do what Joab did. Joab did what Joab wanted to do, and people that are meek, and it says the meek shall inherit the world. And that's the thing about having people like that in my life, is seeing that we're, like I say, I mean, because I was over there with them kids elbowing my way into that food, you know. But yet, seeing her do that, you know, just looking back at it, because like I say, there's times when we didn't have the money to do what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes God blesses people where they have, you know, the money to do what they want to do. And one thing I can also say about her too is she drives almost every Sunday to Amarillo to go to her church, you know, and that's most people will drive across town, you know, with the fact she has to get up 3 hours early to go to her church, you know, and then turn around and have to drive back that night. That takes a lot of dedication, you know, and it just shows how bad of a preacher I am in her eyes. No, she's my worst critic, I can tell you that. She's my worst critic because she's always like, you talk down to people like they're kids. I don't think I do. But that's the thing about it is like I say, when you see people like that in your life, you appreciate what God has done for us. And if you don't, then you're being more of a Joab. And you need to realize what Joab, you know, where he's going to wind up probably. I don't know. I'm not his judge. But the thing is, I want everything in my heart to show that I'm trying to help God's children and help the people around me and be more of like, you know, this a caring person that respects and cherishes what God has done for me. Because, you know, my brother, you know, he's never had children. He's had a very rough life and everything else. And because of his mental condition, I don't know if he understands all of it. But the fact is that, you know, I can't get him in church. I can't get him to, you know, and but anyway, it's what, but I still work at it. And that's what we need to try to, is the people that are around us that we can't get into church, we need to still work at them all the time and say, this is what God's blessed me with, and this is what I'm trying to bless God with by spreading his word and his love and his peace. You wouldn't bow your heads. I always take this time to ask if anybody will come down and invite Jesus into their lives, or pray with them, or if anybody wants to join the church. Because we always ask if you want to join the church to come down in front, because everything Jesus did, he did it publicly. And